Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out how Pixies and Doolittle launched the 90s.
Did you know there's now a new second channel exclusively for musical trivia shorts?
No?
Trash Theory 2. It's a minute-long additional dose of trash theory every week.
Alright.
Subscribe now.
Okay.
Pixies started out as a joke, more specifically a one-ad referencing the post-hardcore Husker Du. And the lightweight 60s folk three-piece, Peter, Paul and Mary.
The magic dragon lived by the sea.
With the additional condition, the applicants have no chops, no musical experience required. Bassist Kim Deal took the bait and unknowingly became essential to one of the most important American bands of the late 80s, crafting uniquely odd, mutilated pop songs about death, sex, environmental collapse and eyeball trauma. By their second album, Pixies built the template for alternative rock's assault on the mainstream, whispering and roaring in equal measure. This is the story of how Pixies and Doolittle launched the 90s.
Okay, interesting. Wow. Yeah, I do like Pixies. I've never listened to a whole album all the way through. I know they were big influences on Nirvana. I know they did soft verse, loud chorus, soft verse, loud chorus, that kind of style. And I know the recordings that I have heard are very organic and earthy. Even though this was in the 80s, it sounds like the 90s, right? Shorter reverbs. I didn't know that it started as a joke, and the two influences were Husker Du and Peter, Paul and Mary. That sounds like a joke, right? But I guess if you put that ad in the paper, it would attract a certain kind of person, certain kind of attitude, certain perspective on life. Or maybe not a certain perspective, but maybe all different perspectives. Maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know. Y'all be sure to go to Trash Theory and like and subscribe. Let's check this out. Okay. Previously on Pixies, 1986 to 88, 4AD Steve Albini, who produced In Utero Nirvana album, and gigantic single version Pixies.
In their first 2 years, the ascent of the Pixies seemed damn near unstoppable. Forming in 1986, the four-piece was composed of vocalist-guitarist Charles
86.
Thompson IV, aka Black Francis, vocalist-bassist Kim Deal, aka Mrs. John Murphy, guitarist Joey Santiago, and drummer David Lovering. They quickly moved from dank nightclub gigs in Boston to recording their Purple Tape demo, to winning over esteemed British indie 4AD, who released their debut 8-track EP, Come On Pilgrim, in September 1987.
Whoa, was that Kim Deal? Wow. Hang on, the artwork to this EP is striking and disgusting and compelling and endearing, but also off-putting, if that makes sense. I've never seen a back this hairy on a human being, but I guess it happens, right?
EP, Come On Pilgrim, in September 1987.
That vocal delivery also sounds like Kurt Cobain, doesn't it?
Following closely on his heels was their first full-length, Surfer Rosa, released in April 1988. With Steve Albini of Big Black behind the desk, it was a collection of damaged yet infectious songs about broken bodies, faces and minds, sung partly in Spanglish, partly in blood-curdling hollers.
The drums sound like In Utero, like that Nirvana album. Same producer, engineer, Steve Albini. Well, I don't know if he produced it, right? But he thought of himself as an engineer is what I mean.
Minimalist yet discordant guitars wrestled with cacophonous drums, supplying uneasy rhythms. Like Husker Du with a country lilt, or a rabid REM. Most songs stomped to completion in about 2 minutes. I like fragmented songs. They're kinda nice. I get so bored by long songs, you know. Nothing like a good short song.
It's true.
It's just like talking to someone, just for a minute. And then you don't have to wallow in it. The exception was Where Is My Mind, a lopsided ballad haunted by Kim Deal's ethereal cooing. Achieved by Albini.
Yo, yeah, this song is amazing. I first heard it on an HBO show called The Leftovers, which was really good, very underrated TV show, but this song was a big part of it. This is probably the Pixie song I'm most familiar with. You've probably heard it 100 times.
Lopsided ballad haunted by Kim Deal's ethereal cooing. Achieved by Albini recording her vocals in the bathroom.
What?
He contends that if he hadn't spent his time on these sonic experiments, the album would have been completed in a week. Despite his current reputation as filmic shorthand for a character questioning their grip on reality,
Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
Oh, I love that
the
drum
song was
sound.
inspired by a high school scuba trip Black Francis had taken in the Bahamas. I was swimming in clear water and there was a small fish, about 4 inches, not dangerous at all, that was aggressively following me and poking me. It kept doing it. It freaked me out. I was like, I have to get away from this crazy fish. In spring 1988, the Pixies embarked on their first significant tour in Europe, supporting fellow Bostonians and 4AD band Throwing Muses.
It's a good
Because of the
matchup.
simultaneous release of Surfer Rosa, by the end of the tour, Pixies were headlining. We
Nice.
switched billing in Holland. I was relieved because who wants to play after the Pixies?
Whoa. So first, Pixies were opening for Throwing Muses, but then their album came out, and it did well, and then they're switched billing. So that Throwing Muses were opening for Pixies. Wow. If there were egos involved, that may have been a difficult conversation. But it looks like she didn't like playing after Pixies, so it makes sense.
We switched billing in Holland. I was relieved because who wants to play after the Pixies?
Wow.
Though he was impressed Albini had made the Pixies sound as raw as the Fool. Head of 4AD, Evo Watts-Russell, felt that Surfer Rosa didn't possess a radio single. Rather than get Albini to remix it, Watts-Russell set the band up with Gil Norton to re-record Gigantic and River Euphrates in May 1988. Steve Albini had been presented to us by the record company, but he had all these bohemian ideals. He called himself an engineer. At the time, people of that ilk equated production with selling out and being mainstream. So when they suggested Gil Norton, someone who was British and an actual record producer, we were pretty agreeable.
Huh. Oh, that's interesting. Steve Albini had all these bohemian ideals. He called himself an engineer, but really he was a producer. That's interesting because I know that when Steve Albini produced In Utero for Nirvana, he wanted to be paid like a plumber. He had this philosophy against producers taking a percentage of a band's sales, and he just wanted to be paid like a plumber. He missed out on a lot of money. But Gil Norton, I've heard of him. His name has come across my eyes many times. Let me just see what his deal is. He has a Wikipedia page. Echo and the Bunnymen, Foo Fighters, that's how I've heard of him. Tribe, Jimmy Eat World, Dashboard Confessional, Feeder, The Distillers, Maximo Park, Counting Crows, Terror Vision, The Triffids, Delamitri, James, The Feelers, The Beekeepers, Twin Atlantic, General Fiasco's Bands, Busted Bayside, and Intergalactic Lovers. Okay, he knows what he's doing.
And an actual record producer, we were pretty agreeable.
I'm surprised they were agreeable. I'm surprised they were like, yeah, sure. It seems like they would like the Steve Albini approach, right? Doesn't it seem like their philosophy?
Someone who was British and an actual record producer, we were pretty agreeable.
Doesn't sound as good.
Gigantic would only chart at number 93 on the UK singles chart, but the song attracted significant attention on college radio.
He's like the the dark, but I'd warn him. It's Paul, it's Paul.
However,
Interesting. Yeah. The single version, the Gil Norton version, sounds more typical 80s, doesn't it? It still is kind of raw, but it's not like the Steve
it
Albini
attracted
version.
significant attention on college radio.
He's like the dark, but I'd warn him. It's Paul, it's
However, Gigantic becoming Pixies' early career calling card would be the first step of their downfall. The majority of Pixie songs are written and sung by frontman Black Francis. Gigantic was co-written and sung by bassist Kim Deal.
Okay.
Yes, I know his teeth is white as snow. What a gas it was.
The sweet sing-songy counterpoint to Francis's manic howling. So not only was the song not especially representative of Pixies' overall sound, Francis's ego took a bruising when Gigantic became the song most people knew by the group. To the point that when Francis met his vocal hero Iggy Pop, Pop only knew Pixies because of the one song he didn't sing on. As the cult of Kim Deal expanded, his jealousy brewed. I have an ego. You have to have an ego to do this. At the time, we would be playing and I would say to myself, I'm doing all the work. She's smoking a cigarette and the crowd is loving her. Why am I knocking myself out writing all these damn songs?
Damn. That ego gets in the way, doesn't it? It's great that he was able to say this almost 20 years later. It looks like this quote is from 2005. Damn. Well, I mean, people liked what Kim Deal was dishing out. If he was happy for her and just went along with it all, they'd maybe still be together. Or they wouldn't have broken up, but Kim Deal left to go be in the Breeders.
Surfer Rosa stirred up a strong underground buzz in the Pixies' home country, but their real impact was in the UK. The album not only topped the British indie charts, but both Melody Maker and Sounds voted it their album of the year. These increasingly promising achievements from a 2-year-old indie band attracted interest from major label Elektra Records, who signed the band in the US. Big things were now expected for album number 2.
Uh-oh, y'all. Here it comes. Sophomore album. I don't know what happens. I don't know their story. But usually a sophomore album fails. Because you have your whole life to write your first album. Then you have like 6 months to a year to write your second album. But hey, another band from America that goes to Britain and gains an audience. And then they come back to the United States and people are like, oh yeah, they are good. Happens a lot. I think European audiences are more open-minded. American audiences they just expect too much, you know?
Who signed the band in the US. Big things were now expected for album number 2.
I am Unchin Andalusia, recording Doolittle, October to November 1988. Debaser, The White Album, and King David. Song Debaser, Demo 1, Pixies.
Though there were brief talks about getting Patti Smith guitarist Lenny Kaye to produce, Pixies again went with Gil Norton. Before the session started, Francis rehearsed the songs with an acoustic guitar to see what worked and what didn't. What Norton heard was a bunch of song fragments, most not quite a minute and a half in length. Though the producer tried to coax Francis into fleshing out the fragments, to add extra verses and repeat sections, Francis was adamant that he didn't want to do something twice, when once would suffice. At some point he got really frustrated with the whole process, and he said, "Let's go for a walk, Gil." He took me to a record store around the corner. He walked right over and found Buddy Holly's greatest hits, turned it over and said, "Look at the times on these songs, Gil. They're all about a minute and a half, 150. If Buddy Holly had anything over 2 minutes, it was an epic. And it was like, if it was good enough for Buddy Holly, what do you say to that?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of Beatles songs were like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, right? Less than that.
But significant changes were still made due to these rehearsals. There Goes My Gun evolved from a Hooskadoo tempo rampage to an off-kilter sea shanty.
Sea shanty.
Norton also saved opener Debaser from the scrap heap. a song that Francis didn't immediately click with. Lyrically, the song references surrealism. In particular, the 1929 Luis Buñuel and Salvador Dali film, Un Chien Andalou.
That's that film where they show a donkey's eyeball being cut open by a razor blade. Anyway.
Buñuel and Salvador Dali film, Un Chien Andalou. Though his pronunciation in the chorus has been bastardized to sound more Spanish than French. Rare for a Pixies song, the verses do correspond with the chorus, describing the film's most famous sequence, while laughing maniacally. But in its original form, debate...
They didn't show that clip, but I know that they actually used a donkey's eyeball.
But in its original form, Debaser referenced the scene in a more contemporary film, Prince's Purple Rain, featuring its lead actress, Apollonia Cotero.
You have to purify yourself in Lake Minnetonka.
Oh. Is Prince a good actor?
It was either going to be Un Chien Andalusia.
Prince might be a good actor, y'all. Did you see that response shot? Very small, subtle. Watch this. Looks at her. She starts taking off her clothes. Watch this. Well done, Prince. Subtle. Yes.
It was either going to be Un Chien Andalusia or I Want You to Shed Apollonia. I couldn't sing about stripping Apollonia 6. That was just too silly. Although I liked the idea. It was too tongue-in-cheek, too like an inside joke. It had to be at least a little more broad than that. But overall there was a push and pull. Norton wanting to make the band more commercial, while the band would rather remain as abrasive as possible.
Typical producer, indie band dynamic, I think, right? The record label hires the producer to make an album that will sell as many copies as possible. But the artist is like, I'm an artist. I'm an artist.
One thing that they locked in on this album was their whisper to a scream dynamic, a technique they had learned from the Cars.
Oh, so it came from the Cars. Interesting. Because Rick Ocasek produced that Weezer album, Weezer, the Blue Album.
Their whisper to a scream dynamic, a technique they had learned from the Cars.
I don't mind you coming here. I guess you're just what I needed.
And bent to their twisted will. This is shown especially well on Tame.
Hips like Cinderella.
Where the intensity behind Francis's yelp meant he had to be half a room away from the microphone to get a usable recording.
Oh. A half a room away. I doubt that little tidbit fact. Because you could use a dynamic microphone like this and scream as loud as you want right in the front of it. They were probably using a tube condenser mic, which is not very rock. That's more like pop or classical hi-fi, you know? I'm surprised that they used that microphone. That's a scream.
Later described
Holy
by
crap.
Francis as the band's only slow jam R&B song. Hay plays with the perfect Pixies collision of sex and death, whores and the devil.
Must be a devil between us, or horrors in my head.
Having already made its live debut on the Throwing Muses tour, Hay was captured, aside from Deal's vocals, in a single live take. I had Charles in a little cupboard playing his guitar. It was really tiny, like a broom cupboard, so he couldn't even put his guitar all the way up. He had to have it up at an angle while he was playing the song. And then Joey did the solo live. I was on the edge of my seat all the way through, just going,
Wow.
Go, go, go. Deal would have one writing credit on the album for the broken and haunted Morricone of Silver. A song that the band never played live. She wrote more for potential inclusion, but Francis vetoed them all. In fact, she sang lead on as many songs on the album as drummer Dave Lovering, who's
A little bit of that ego kicking in. He vetoed most of her songs. He probably took the worst song just to appease her, but he probably left all of her best songs off so that she wouldn't get any attention.
In fact, she sang lead on as many songs on the album as drummer Dave Lovering, whose cheesy lounge singer croon on La La Love You.
The drummer's voice also sounds kind of like Ringo, doesn't he? It sounds like Ringo.
Is a tribute to Ringo always getting a song on Beatles albums. Francis has been listening to the Beatles' White Album a lot. And its eclecticism and vast array of characters impacted his new songs, whether that be the King of Death on Mr. Greaves, or a weird roommate.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, all those characters on the White Album, like Obla Di Obla Da. I mean, there's a bunch of them.
Or a weird roommate ranting about Fred Flintstone in Spanish on Crackety Jones.
He got friends like Paco Pico Piedra.
Wave of Mutilation's tale of failed Japanese businessmen driving into the ocean to their doom starts with an equally morbid reference. The first line is taken from the Beach Boys song, Never Learn Not to Love, a song with a writing credit from cult leader Charles Manson.
Cease to exist. Just come and say you love me.
Dead and Gouge Away were both gleaned from Francis's Sunday School Youth, the former about King David and Bathsheba,
You crazy babe Bathsheba. I want you. You're suffocating. You need a pusher.
and the latter Samson and Delilah.
Sleeping on your belly. You break my arms. It's through my eyes.
Bible stories are great. Everything you want, sex, violence, it's all there. Brutal
yeah.
too. The hardcore stuff, woo. That would make spicy movies. The fate of the faithful soldier King David betrayed, summed up in the 4 repeated words.
What does Uriah hit the crapper mean? Is Uriah a person? Hang on. Uriah hit the crapper. Uriah the Hittite. Oh. A minor figure in the Hebrew Bible mentioned in the book of Samuel, an elite soldier in the army of David. Oh, he spied upon Bathsheba bathing in the privacy of her courtyard. How dare he? Okay, King David impregnated Bathsheba. In effort to hide his misdeeds, he called Uriah home from war, tried to get Uriah to sleep with Bathsheba too so he could pass off the kid as Uriah's kid, but Uriah, being a disciplined soldier, refused to sleep with his wife. So David murdered him by ordering all of Uriah's comrades to abandon him in the midst of battle, so that he ended up getting killed by an opposing army. Wow. King David sounds like a dick.
But for the most part, Francis's lyrics were just whatever fits. 80% of it's baloney, yeah. It's that T-Rex thing of if it sounds cool. I write the songs by writing a bunch of syllables along with the chord progressions, and they become words. A bunch of 5 words might mean something, or stand for something, but the 5 words after it, or preceding it, sure as hell won't have anything to do with them.
Huh, that's interesting. I was talking with a friend about Red Hot Chili Peppers lyrics, and how the past maybe decade or even 2 decades of songs that they have put out have really odd lyrics, and it always seemed like a missed opportunity to say something great or inspire people, or to give some insights into the universe or life or something. But my friend told me that he saw an interview with Anthony Kiedis, the lead singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he was saying that most songs are about love, and all those songs have been written. How many times can you write that same subject? And so he thinks of lyric writing as more like a Jackson Pollock painting, like an expression, like expressionist painting. So it's more about how the words sound together or the images they elicit, but not necessarily the meaning of the sentences, And once I learned that, it kind of made sense, and I can appreciate it more. And I feel like he's doing kind of the same thing, way before Anthony Kiedis did it. Actually, Kurt Cobain did that too. And I bet Kurt Cobain got it from Black Francis. Damn. Okay.
But the 5 words after it, or preceding it, sure as hell won't have anything to do with them.
Monkey Gone to Heaven. That's funny for some reason. And Here Comes Your Man, October to November 1988. Neptune, REM, and Here Comes Your Man. Song Monkey Gone to Heaven, Pixies.
While 4AD had seen no possible single on Surfer Rosa, this new album had 2 surefire indie rock smashes. While Norton had previously worked on the lush orchestration of Echo and the Bunnymen's Ocean Rain. Pixies restrained him to make the album's production portable, playable live as a 4-piece. Monkey
Smart.
Gone to Heaven and its string quartet was the only compromise.
Oh.
And a definite culture clash for the band. We ended up hiring a string section from the symphony orchestra up there. They rocked up in their full evening dress. The girl wore a big long black dress, and the boys had dicky bows. I remember Charles going, "Wow, this is amazing."
Why would you
The
wear
lyric
that?
was based around the title phrase, something Francis found both profound and hilarious.
Why would you wear concert dress to a recording session? Monkey Gone to Heaven. What is this about? I want to read the lyrics to Monkey Gone to Heaven. There was a guy, an underwater guy who controlled the sea. Poseidon. Got killed by 10 million pounds of sludge from New York and New Jersey. This monkey's gone to heaven. This monkey's gone to heaven. This monkey's gone to heaven. The creature in the sky got sucked in a hole. Now there's a hole in the sky, and the ground's not cold. And if the ground's not cold, everything is gonna burn. We'll all take turns. I'll get mine too. This monkey's gone to heaven. Rock me, Joe. If man is 5, then the devil is 6. And if the devil is 6, then God is 7. This monkey's gone to heaven. Okay, I guess he's saying that people are monkeys, basically, I guess. If man is 5 and devil is 6, then God is 7. Okay, monkey gone to heaven. I gotta say, hearing these Gil Norton produced songs, I don't like the way it sounds as much as the Steve Albini produced songs. The Steve Albini stuff has more girth to it. I'm hearing on the Gil Norton stuff, it sounds more typically 80s, which is probably what the record label wanted. But I'm hearing, like, one specific thing that bothers me is that there's too much snare rattle. Usually you put a microphone above the snare and one under the snare to get the snare rattle. The bottom mic is too loud. I'm not getting enough of the tone from the snare drum. Steve Albini knows what I'm talking about. All right, Monkey Gone to Heaven.
And a definite culture clash for the band. We ended up hiring a string section from the symphony black. The lyric was based around the title phrase, something Francis found both profound and hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Topical to the late 80s, the song has a conservation theme, not only concerned with the hole in the ozone layer,
Right.
but has King Neptune getting offed by industrial waste.
An underwater guy who controlled the sea got killed by 10 million pounds of sludge from New York and New Jersey.
Seemingly having a grudge against the Neptunes, his daughter would be dead by the beginning of the album's next track, Mr. Greaves.
What's that floating in the water? Oh, Neptune's only daughter.
Oh, Neptune. I was thinking Poseidon. I guess I'm on that Greek tip. Wait, which came first, Neptune or Poseidon? Which is Greek and which is Roman? Neptune is the god of rivers, springs, and waters. He may be parallel the Irish god Necton, master of rivers and wells. This is in contrast to Poseidon, who was primarily god of the sea. Neptune has been associated with a number of other Roman deities. So it's not exactly the same. Yeah, whatever happened to the ozone hole? Remember the ozone hole? That used to be big news. I'm sorry I'm digressing. But whatever happened to the ozone hole? The hole in the ozone layer that stretched unchecked above the Antarctic in the 1980s is continuing to shrink, and scientists now believe it could recover completely by 2066. Alright, so it was never a big deal. Wonder why it's shrinking? Probably not a good reason, right? It's probably a sign or a side effect of something even worse.
The sea got killed by 10 million pounds of sludge from New York and New Jersey.
Seemingly having a grudge against the Neptunes, his daughter would be dead by the beginning of the album's next track, Mr. Greaves.
What's that floating in the water? Oh, Neptune's only daughter.
Francis has stated that the bridge of Monkey Gone to Heaven is his fuzzy interpretation of Hebrew numerology. Especially in the Bible, you can find lots of references to man in the fifth, and Satan in the sixth, and God in the seventh. I don't know if there is a spiritual hierarchy or not, but it's a neat little fact, if it is a fact. I didn't go to the library and figure it out. But for the most part, Francis added it for the T-Rex of it all. Simply because the devil is 6 and God is 7 rhymes with this monkey's gone to heaven. Because of its repeated
fits,
use
though.
in Hey, Francis intended for the album to be called Whore.
Whore's at the door, whore in my bed.
But when 4AD's resident graphic designer, Vaughan Oliver, came back with the cover art,
Oh, no.
inspired by the lyrics of Monkey Gone to Heaven,
Oh.
Francis had second thoughts. A monkey with a halo calling it whore, that would bring up all kinds of shit that wouldn't be true. It was instead called Doolittle, taken from a line in Mr. Greaves. The oldest song in Doolittle was Here Comes Your Man, written on piano when
Hang on.
Francis...
Yeah, I think renaming it to Doolittle was a good call. Because naming your album Whore, I feel like when I was 14 years old, if I made an album, that's what I would call it. Trying to be irreverent or subversive. But it's just like, it's not a bold move. Really. And probably would negatively affect record sales, right? Trying to sell some records. Trying to make your money back. Doolittle is a good call. That has a double meaning too, right?
The oldest song in Doolittle was Here Comes Your Man, written on piano when Francis was 14,
Wow.
starting with a Hard Day's Night style ringing chord,
Right?
before transforming into a bouncy, power pop jangle.
Oh yeah, I've heard this. Yeah,
It was known within the band as the Tom Petty song, first recorded in their Purple Tape demo sessions in 1987.
It does sound like Tom Petty. I could totally hear Tom Petty doing this song.
Here Comes Your Man was a little bit too normal for Evo Watts Russell's tastes, as such vetoed from inclusion on Come On Pilgrim. Albini also dismissed the song as too pussy, having already tried to make the track work during the Gigantic sessions. Norton knew it was a hit when he heard it. Come the Doolittle rehearsals, he had compiled the best bits from the several existent demo versions of the song, and tasked Francis with adding lyrics and writing a second verse. The word boxcar was the first piece from which the song flowed. Taken from the chorus of Carnival of Sorts from R.E.M's first EP.
I was gonna say, that sounds... Why does that sound familiar? Oh, that's not why.
The lyrics are pure Americana, but with their trademark, Pixie-esque darkness. It's about winos and hobos travelling on the train who die in the California earthquake. Before earthquakes, everything gets very calm. Animals stop talking and the birds stop chirping, and there's no wind.
Oh.
Many were confused by the song's non sequitur of a chorus, and took it to heart as a simple love song. Including Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in 500 Days of Summer, singing at a karaoke to put across his romantic intentions, while failing to understand the song's earthquake narrative. Released as the second single of the album, Here Comes Your Man charted at number 54 in the UK, and was a massive hit on college radio. But while they were nowhere near as self-sabotaging as the replacements, Pixies tried their very best to fail to promote the song, rarely playing it live. In addition, Black Francis was averse to lip-syncing, so the music video features a Hall & Mirrors version of the band, vaguely opening their mouths in time with the music.
Awesome.
However, semi-regular
hilarious.
play on MTV pushed Doolittle to eventual gold status, and opportunities to appear on late-night TV. Arsenio Hall was interested in having the Pixies on, but when the band expressed their plan to play the screaming cacophony, Tame, instead of the actual hit, the offer was rescinded.
Damn. They should have played Arsenio, y'all. I loved Arsenio Hall. I love that show. Arsenio's a great talk show host. He's a good stand-up comedian, too. I was out at there's this comedy club called The Magic Store. I don't know why it's called that. Went there one night. Arsenio Hall shows up, unannounced, out on the stage. Arsenio Hall. Good stand-up. Well done, Arsenio. Hoot, hoot, hoot. Or woot, woot, woot.
And having the Pixies on. But when the band expressed their plan to play the screaming cacophony, Tame, instead of the actual hit, the offer was rescinded.
Okay. The death and enduring legacy of Pixies. Okay. April 1989, it's alphabetical. The Breeders and Smells Like Teen Spirit song Into the White, Pixies.
Released in April 1989, Doolittle would enter the UK album chart at number 8. And that wasn't the indie chart. This was the one where they jostled for position with Madonna, Guns N' Roses, and Fine Young Cannibals. In the UK at least, Pixies were big time, playing the Pyramid stage at Glastonbury Festival in June 1989. They opened with Bone Machine, followed with Cactus and Caribou, and finished 20 songs later with Where Is My Mind. The band was so shit hot, they were able to play their sets alphabetically, and the crowd would still lose their minds.
Wow.
It doesn't matter what order we play it in. If we're a good band, get out there and prove it. I'd rather not prove it by all this show-busy, kind of like, now we're gonna finish with our big anthem. Let's just do the anthem now. They better all be anthems, right? They better all be amazing.
I've never heard of anyone doing that. Alphabetically. Bone Machine, Cactus, Caribou, Crackety Jones, Dead. It sure is alphabetical. Wow. Oh, I don't see There Goes Your Man, but I see There Goes My Gun. So irreverent.
And the crowds would still lose their mind. It doesn't matter what order we play it in. If we're a good band, get out there and prove it. I'd rather not prove it by all this show-busy, kind of like, now we're gonna finish with our big anthem. Let's just do the anthem now. They better all be anthems, right? They better all be amazing.
I respect
but
that.
all was not well in Pixies land. Journalists had caught on to Deal's diminished involvement on Doolittle. But whenever it was brought up to Francis, he'd leave the interview. Deal herself was disappointed in her dwindling role in the band. Here Comes Your Man B-side, Into the White, had her on lead vocals.
Into the white.
that had been formed by 100% Francis Baloney. I've been singing less and less in the Pixies, just oohing and ahhing. You can get a synthesizer to do that. But Charles is lead singer. Not only that, he sings every f***ing one. Who does he think he is? Mr. Hogg? Mr. Big Shot? Shut up, Charles. Shut your food hole for 3 minutes and give Kim a chance.
Kim, you're not helping things by saying that. That's unfortunate, isn't it? It is all ego. It's such a strange thing because as an audience member watching them, you think they're all good friends and they have each other's back and they all get along and they're all each other's cheerleader and they want each other to do well, but it's not like that at all. It's very shallow and nitpicky and like people have attitudes and like people are kind of bitchy and I want to. That sucks. That sucks. They couldn't see that they were each other's best hope for doing something great. They couldn't see it. They thought they were in competition, but they're not. You're not in competition. Help each other, right? Damn it. But at least, nobody died, I guess, is a good thing.
Communication between Dio and Francis had broken down, and a combination of alcohol, hangovers, and general tour exhaustion had made it so that behind the scenes, the band was barely functioning. There was a point around Doolittle where things got kinda icy. People talked less and less. People hung out on their own more and more. You go into the dressing room and no one's talking. You play a show where the crowd is going crazy. It's sold out. 3 encores. Everything's going great. Go back to the dressing room and it's cold as ice. Dio was often late, raising tensions within the band. It culminated with the band playing the first 10 minutes of a set in Stuttgart without a bassist.
Whoa.
Once Dio did get on stage, Francis was so incensed, he threw his guitar at her while she sang Into the White. I was like, what the f***? Somebody threw something at me when I was on the microphone singing his song that he wrote the lyrics to. I don't even like singing other people's songs anyway. And I get the guitar thrown at me, limply. And then he hides behind Joey. In January 1990, after the tour wrapped up, Dio stayed in England to record some of her own songs with Tanya Donnelly of Throwing Muses, an ex-Slint drummer, Britt Wolfert. What would end up being the first Breeders album.
Okay.
Pod. The rest of the Pixies moved out to Los Angeles to rehearse for their next album, Bossa Nova, at the same time planning on letting Dio go. The only reason she remained in the group was that she was tipped off to their plans, flew out there, and the band, not ever able to handle confrontation at the best of times, backed down. After Bossa Nova released...
Okay, see, that's a problem. They couldn't have an adult conversation. They didn't have the skills. They didn't have the tools. What a torturous cycle of dysfunction. They're really frustrated and they want to say something, but they avoid confrontation, so they don't say it, so it stays in there and festers and becomes cancer. That sucks.
The Pixies would release one more album, Trompe le Monde, their 4th in 4 years. By this point, Dio's work in the Breeders was getting far more attention than her work in the Pixies, and Francis wanted to focus on his solo work. The last show we did was in April '92, our own show in Vancouver. Afterwards, Charles said something about taking a sabbatical. I was like, oh, for how long? And he goes, I believe a sabbatical is 1 year. And that's the last conversation we had. The last time we talked.
Whoa.
And the last sentence was, I believe a sabbatical is 1 year. Asshole. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but that's a f***ing stupid last sentence.
They didn't even say goodbye. Yeah, that's a dumb last sentence. Wow. These guys did not like confrontation, did they? Kim is the biggest man of them all, right? Kim had the biggest balls of the whole band. Good for Kim. Good for Kim. Kim, go on and write a song called Cannonball and hit the top of the charts. Right? Way to go, Kim. Oh, I hate saying that, though, because the other guys in the band, they just didn't know. They didn't have the tools. It's not their own fault. It's their parents' fault.
Black Francis announced the Pixies' breakup via an interview with BBC Radio 5. Supposedly, Francis broke the news to his bandmates via fax. Dio has disputed this, claiming that no one else in the band owned a fax machine. Despite their general messiness, people adore the Pixies. Being that they were the biggest indie band since the Smiths in the UK, they had a sizable impact, particularly on Blur, Ash, PJ Harvey, 90s Bowie, and Radiohead. Said Radiohead guitarist Johnny Greenwood circa 2004.
One of the reasons we don't use guitars much anymore now is because, you know, there are only a handful of Pixies albums, and you kind of can't keep copying them. I feel like it's what we've done for so long.
Wow.
But this influence spread to the US also, their most vocal fan being Kurt Cobain, who went as far as saying that Smells Like Teen Spirit's soft to loud dynamics was him mimicking the band. I was trying to write the ultimate pop song. I was basically trying to rip off the Pixies. I have to admit it. When I heard the Pixies for the first time, I connected with that band so heavily. I should have been in that band. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that the Pixies laid out the map for alternative rock in the 90s.
Yeah.
From the metallic dream pop of the Smashing Pumpkins to the oddball country fuzz of Pavement and Modest Mouse. Moreover, Kim Deal got a Dandy Warhol song written about her.
Wow.
And Frank Black got name-checked in a Bloodhound Gang song.
Uh-oh.
I'm black like Barry White, no, I am white like Frank Black is. This hockey's gone to heaven.
Even more modern bands like TV on the Radio, Block Party, Spoon, Surfer Blood.
This honky's gone to heaven. Wow. Hilarious.
Even more modern bands like TV on the Radio, Block Party, Spoon, Surfer Blood, Biffy Clyro, Wet Leg, Wolf Alice, Bully, Screaming Females, and Idols have a bit of Pixies in them. The bad blood within the Pixies became legend. The phrase "when the Pixies get back together" was the same as saying "when hell freezes over" in indie rock circles. Francis, in his Frank Black guise, was quoted in Rolling Stone that the Pixies might reunite if I were penniless, or a family member needed a kidney transplant. But a year after that quote, and 12 years after that disputed fax, they did in fact reform, headlining the likes of Reading Festival and Coachella, and playing to a new generation of fans that had grown up being told how great the Pixies were. The band finally got to live out the alternate reality where the Pixies were the biggest band in the world, as they always should have been.
Wow.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, like, subscribe, and why don't you also do me a favor and share it with a couple of people.
Y'all be sure to go to Trash Theory and like and subscribe. So, I didn't know they got back together. When did that happen? Pixies reunion? When did they get back together? Legacy? What's his music? Oh, they did. Oh, in 2004? That said Reading, didn't it? This says they reunited at Coachella in 2004. But what about Reading? It's not telling me. Wow, the Today Show ran a story about... Wow. Yeah. Oh, there's a documentary film about them. Well, I gotta check that out. Wow. I didn't know there was all that bad blood between them. I didn't know it was so petty either, right? And cruel? I didn't know all that. That's unfortunate. They had some good songs. They made some great albums. Wow. I guess those attitudes are part of what made them make the music they made, though, too, right? They were not well people. Or, I mean, that's not a cool thing to say, but you know what I mean. They had some dysfunction. And that dysfunction led them to write the stuff they wrote, make the music they made. So at least we have a few albums from them. And then Kim Deal got to go on and be in the Breeders and have a hit. Right. Well, Thanks for watching this with me. I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.